Okay, so this is going to be a quick one, so I'll just get into it. Flash Annual number 5, aka Run-In, is a very average story. This time, Mark Waid is co-writing with Craig Baldwin, with art by Travis Charrett, inks by Dan Davis, Scott Hanna and John Lowe, letters by Tim Harkins, coloured by Matt Hollingsworth, and edited by Brian Augustin. And much like the last Flash Annual we reviewed, this story would be another tie-in to a company-wide crossover event. Yes, I did an unintentional hat trick with these. The story involves Golden Glider getting the Rogues, Trickster, Captain Boomerang, and Weather Wizard together for a heist, along with a new recruit and her boyfriend, Chillblaine, to rob a museum containing the Black Diamond. While the other Rogues are disinterested at first, Glider is able to convince them to join by letting them all take whatever they want from the museum. They're all a little too locked into this because they all decide to go to the museum all individually, only to then run into not only each other, but also Glider and Chillblaine. Yeah, that's very in character for them. I will say the new suits they get look very interesting. I know they're all going for a stealth look here, but they feel like a product of their time, and I don't like any of them. The whole charm of any superhero and their rogues are the fun costumes they wear, and while I don't mind some new looks, these ones aren't those. Especially when all three of these characters pull heists like these in their regular costumes. These all feel like a lazy attempt to look cool during the 90s, and they all fail miserably. The absolute worst is Weather Wizard's, because he looks more like a green knockoff Superman with no symbol and yellow gloves, rather than, the Weather Wizard. It's all over the place, bland, and I hate it. But thankfully, this is the only time you get to see these. Another thing I don't like is that when they run into Glider, she kisses all three of them, and they all just let it happen. Why didn't these three try backing away when they're all being kissed unprovoked? She clearly had all of this planned out and is up to something here. One character falling for this is fine, but all three of them just letting it happen is ridiculous. Of course, they all get poisoned by this, and while Glider does have an antidote, it can only cure one person, and so she uses them all to fight for the diamond. Boomerang wins, and once he grabs the diamond, it turns out that it was attached to none other than the Flash, who was earlier kidnapped by Chillblaine and cannot run nearly as fast. So the Scarlet Speedster battles with the three Rogues, while his speed is somewhat disabled. This is a very fun concept to introduce. It forces Wally to fight bad guys with not just his speed, but also his wits. But this lasts about 10 pages, and he only gets out by using his speed to saw the crutch fast enough to break, and he's back in action. There is one moment where he vibrates himself hard enough while he's being pushed up a wall by Weather Wizard, but that's something he could have easily done without a crutch, which just makes the point of it useless. That's a waste of a concept that could have gone on longer. Once the fight ends, Flash finds out through his vibrations that the diamond that was attached to him is actually a bomb, which he deals with in quick succession. Then it's time for him to face Glider, only for his ankle to break and cause him to fall, giving Chillblaine the opportunity to kill him, and Glider can finally wear the Black Diamond on a crown. As an FYI, Glider and Chillblaine were about to fuck in this moment, which I find really funny. However, Chillblaine decides to not go through with it, and an angry Glider kills him for his lack of follow-through, revealing that the Black Diamond was actually the embodiment of Eclipso that now possesses her, and she and Wally duke it out. Eclipso gains the upper hand, and Wally has no one to help him, except for his friend Chunk, who stands there and does nothing, which then leads Wally to getting taken over by Eclipso. Okay, I know they're clearly setting up something in the overall arc, but this all feels weird to me. I didn't mention it until now, but Chunk had his own story with Wally earlier, where Wally got sucked into Chunk's engine and had to make his way out. It had a nice ending scene where Chunk feels thankful for Wally's help throughout their relationship, which is nice, but doesn't add a lot to the overall story. Also, Chunk's story feels like another setup for the rest of the event, that I honestly don't care enough to see. I see there's a plan here with this guy who enters his car telling him not to get involved, which is kind of interesting, but if I have to read other books just to see the end, then I can pass. So I'm more than a little bummed that this main story all felt like somewhat meaningless setup for an overall arc that spans across different books. Like I said in my impulse control video, I hate when you need to read every book coming out just to understand one event, and this is no different. When this book ends, it doesn't feel like an ending, but a cliffhanger setting up the rest of the overarching storyline that I don't care for. I like that when the rogues meet up at the theatre, they talk about Glider's plan, which pisses off the rest of the audience, causing them all to leave. It's funny and makes Keystone feel lived in. I also enjoyed the first part where Wes Wizard and Trickster trap Wally, especially because of the cool tricks Trickster uses in this scene to mess with the police. That was really funny, and I like that the end circles back to this moment, where Glider is now on the receiving end of this pain. A better written story would have made this feel more deserved, but I still liked it. Overall, I felt this arc was very boring and left a lot to be desired. There were some fun moments, but the overall story was a letdown. I wish I had more to say, but I don't. It was that bland of a story, and I would recommend skipping it if you can. That's the end of the video, and I really liked making it. So I'm hoping I can keep talking about Flash comics and just other comic books in general. If that interests you, I highly recommend subscribing, hitting the notification button, and sharing this video around. I also have accounts on Instagram, Threads, and Comic Geeks if you want to follow me elsewhere, and I even have a Discord server where you can chat with me and other like-minded people. Anyway, I'm Jedi-Liam64, and I think I've taken up enough of your time. So, I'll see you all later.